What's going on YouTube? Super Insane 18 here with another combo and interactions video for Despia as promised in the deck profile this past Monday. So let's go ahead and show you guys what we got. This is 6 more must-know branded Despia combos and interactions. Alright, so for this first combo, it is going to be a 2.5 card combo needing the Branded Fusion, the Nadir Servant, and any discard. And it's going to end you on a actually really cool board, so let's show you guys what it's going to do. We will start off by activating our Branded Fusion, sending the Fallen of Albaz and the Despian Tragedy from our deck to the graveyard, and this will summon out a copy of Lubellion. Here we can activate the Lubellion as Chainlink 1, discarding the discard that we have for cost, and our Chainlink 2 is going to be the Despian Tragedy, here specifically adding the copy of Ad Libitum. Now, Chainlink 1 will resolve, we will shuffle back our Lubellion, and our Fallen of Albaz, and this is going to summon out our copy of Mirror Jade. Now what we can do here is we can activate our Nadir Servant, sending a copy of El Shadal Ap Cologne to the graveyard to add us a copy of Dogmatica Maximus, and then the El Shadal Ap Cologne will activate, letting us add a copy of Shadal Schism from our deck to our hand. Here what we're actually going to do though is we are going to discard our Shadal Schism because we'll be able to get it back a little bit later. We're going to summon out our Dogmatica Maximus by banishing the El Shadal Ap Cologne that we have in our grave. And then once we have the Maximus on the field, we can activate its effect, sending the copy of Albion and the copy of Construct from our deck to the extra deck to the graveyard. And this is going to do a couple of things for us. The Construct will activate, letting us add back our copy of Shadal Schism, and then once we go to end phase, we'll be able to use the Albion. So now what we're going to do is we will set our Shadal Schism, proceed to our end phase and activate the effect of the Albion to set a copy of Branded in Red from our deck to our field, and then that's going to be the setup for this next turn. Now, the next turn you have to play a little bit tricky. You want to make sure that you sequence everything right so the window doesn't lock you out as well. But you're inevitably going to be able to use your Mirror Jade to send another Albion to banish a monster your opponent controls. And then what you can do is you can activate the Shadal Schism, but then chain your Branded in Red. This is important because you want to make sure you get your Branded in Red off before the window hits the field. Because what's going to happen now is we're going to add back our copy of Tragedy from our deck to our hand, and then we're going to use the Tragedy, the Ad Libitum, and the Mirror Jade. We'll go ahead and banish all 3 of these to summon out a copy of Guardian Chimera, and then the Schism is going to resolve. We will banish the Construct and the Albion from last turn. We want to make sure that we leave this Albion so that it activates in the end phase. And we can go ahead and banish these for the Schism to summon out our copy of Winda. And then we have a couple of chains that we can go ahead and go forward with. What we can do is we can activate Chimera as Chainlink 1. We can have Tragedy as Chainlink 2. We can have Ad Libitum as Chainlink 3. And if they control a Dark Monster, the Schism can also send a Dark Monster. So the Ad Libitum is going to target out our Mirror Jade and resummon it. This is important because now the Mirror Jade is live again for an additional removal. Then we are going to use the Tragedy to add our copy of Aluber for the follow-up on the next turn. Then the Guardian Chimera is going to draw us 2 blank cards and pop 1. And then our opponent's pretty much locked out because they have only 1 special summon, we have another non-target removal, and then in the end phase, the Albion that we sent is going to get us another copy of Branded Fusion probably, or Branded Opening. Realistically, doesn't matter which one. You can search any of these 3 cards during your end phase, and that gives you a really good amount of follow-up for the next turn, because you have these, one of these, whatever you're drawing for turn, you're going to search off of the Aluber, plus that was only a 2.5 card combo, so you still have 2 cards left in your hand to begin with, so it's really just a lot of advantage and really strong because now your opponent's essentially locked out of playing the game. Alright, now this is an interaction, not a combo, but it's definitely something that you need to know if you plan on playing this deck. Now, a lot of you might already know this, but for the people who aren't really competitive or those who are just starting to get into competitive, I wanted to make sure that I taught you guys what we needed to do here. So if you have the Branded Opening, What you can do is when you start your turn, you obviously have to go through your phases. So in your draw phase, before you go into standby or main phase or anything, still in your draw phase, you can activate the branded opening because it's a quick play. This will allow you to special summon the Habetler in your draw phase, which will force the Habetler to activate, letting you add your copy of Branded Fusion. And the reason that this is important is because if it's in draw phase, you can't get Effect Veiler because Effect Veiler says that it has to be during your main phase, and it also plays around cards like Droll and Lockbird, which again have to be when you add a card from your hand, or from your deck to your hand, except during the draw phase. So by activating this in your draw phase, you play around two very relevant hand traps and make sure that you're able to at least get into the cards that you need to continue. Now, for our next combo, it is going to be another 2.5 card combo with the Branded Fusion, the Meltdown, and any discard. Now, the Meltdown could be swapped for just the Alistair, but we are only playing one Alistair, so it's more likely that we'll have a copy of our Meltdown. So let me go ahead and show you guys what we're going to do, and we're going to start off by activating our Magical Meltdown. This will let us add the copy of Alistair from our deck to our hand. Now, because I want to try and play around hand traps, I am going to normal the Alistair first and go ahead and search the invocation. The reason I want to do this is because it's more important to me that the Branded Fusion resolves. So if they have like an Ash Blossom or something, I'd want to try and see if I can bait it with the Alistair. But we're going to say that we're not getting stopped for the sake of showing you guys the combo. So now we can go ahead and activate our Branded Fusion, and we'll send our Albaz and our Despian Tragedy from our deck to the graveyard, and this will summon us out our Lubellion. Now, same as we have done in pretty much every combo, we're going to Lubellion, Chainlink 1, use our discard, Chainlink 2, Tragedy. Tragedy here is going to go ahead and search us our copy of Luber, and then we can go ahead and use the Chainlink 1 to shuffle back our Lubellion and our Albaz, and summon out our copy of Mirror Jade. Now what we can do is we can activate our invocation, banishing our Alistair and any of our darks. In this case, we would say that we only have the Tragedy because the discard might not be a dark, but we'll go ahead, we'll banish the Tragedy, and this will let us summon out a copy of Kaliga. Then we can go ahead and use the invocation effect, shuffling it back into the deck to add back the Alistair, and this is going to be the end board. Now, it doesn't really sound all that threatening when you look at it, but only having one monster effect and being locked to the point where if you summon a monster, I can just banish it, we're in a very good position, because now we have the Alistair and the Luber for our follow-up on the next turn, or if what our opponent normally does, and what I've run into a lot in locals, is they'll try to just summon something that can beat over this, but then you use your one effect with the Alistair to discard to pump its defense up to 28, and then they probably wasted their one effect to get into something that can run over that, so they're pretty much locked out. And then you're pretty much good to go, because if you really need to go off on your opponent, on your next turn you can use the Mirror Jade to banish the Kaliga, and then normal summon your Luber and just go off. So definitely don't count this board out. It's very threatening even if it doesn't look like it, and definitely a combo worth knowing. So let's go ahead and show you guys the next one. Now again, for this one, it is more so an interaction than a combo, and it is just involving the Magical Meltdown. I wanted to kind of give you guys a bit of an in-depth explanation. Again, if you're very competitive, you already know all of this, but for those of you who are not competitive or trying to get into competitive, it is very important to learn this. So with Magical Meltdown, there is a couple of things that are very important. Most notably, it says that your effects or your activations that would fusion summon a monster cannot be negated. Now, there is a very big difference between activations and effects. So that's why under Meltdown you could do something like Ash Blossom, the Branded Fusion, because Ash Blossom says negate the effect. But for example, if you have Meltdown and Branded in red, they cannot Ghost Bell the Branded in red, because Ghost Bell says negate the activation. So since this prevents them from negating the activation, they cannot do that. So you just have to be wary between activation negations and effect negations. They are two very separate things, and that is where a lot of players get confused with Meltdown. So yeah, that's just another interaction that you guys need to know. Let's show you guys the next combo. Alright, so for this next combo, it is going to be a later game combo. All of the combos thus far have been ways to start your game, but this is going to be a way to end your game a little bit later on. So as you can see, we've already got a little bit of a graveyard established, and we have an Habetler in hand, and this is just a really easy way to go for OTK if you know that your opponent has nothing to stop you. So what we're going to do is we're going to start our turn by summoning out the Eluber, and the Eluber effect is going to add us our Branded Fusion. Here we would activate our Branded Fusion, and we're going to send the Fallen of Albaz and the Fairy Tale Snow to our graveyard to summon out the copy of Albion. Then what we can do is we can use the Albion effect to banish monsters to get another summon. So we'll banish the Albaz and we'll just say the Edge Imp Chain just because we need a light or a dark. And this will go into the Despian Queritus, which can then turn everything our opponent controls that is not a level 8 or higher fusion to have 0 attack. So now, because we also have our Snow Engrave, we can just banish any 7 cards. Does not matter. Summon out our Snow, and since everything went to 0, this is more than 8,000 damage on board, and just a pretty easy way to go for the game later on if you know that you can't be stopped. And to finish off the video, we do have another interaction involving our favorite card, Magical Meltdown, and this is why a lot of players really don't like this card, but obviously if you're playing it, you love it for this reason, and that is that you cannot activate anything in response to a successful fusion summon. So what we can do here is we're going to go ahead and activate our Branded Fusion. We're going to send our Albaz and our Tragedy, and this is going to let us summon out our Lubellion, which I thought I put on the top. We're going to go ahead and summon out our Lubellion, and then now we essentially get to activate everything for free here, since they cannot respond to the successful summon, and both the Lubellion and the Tragedy activate on the summon. We get to go Lubellion, chain 1, discard, Tragedy, chain 2 to search, and they cannot respond to any of this. They cannot negate anything, they cannot stop you from doing anything, so you're essentially going to get your Mirror Jade for absolutely free without their ability to respond. And this is even better if it's later on in the game or if you went turn 2, because since they still cannot respond to the successful summon of a fusion monster, you can activate the Mirror Jade on summon, banishing or sending a monster for cost and non-target banishing, all without them being able to respond to the effect. So they cannot negate it, they cannot activate anything that's set, they literally cannot do anything. You get to do this completely for free, and it's all because Meltdown does not let your opponent respond to the fusion summon of a monster. So there you guys have it. That is 6 more must-know combos and interactions for Branded Despia. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, you know the deal. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends, and maybe consider supporting me on Patreon, because for just $1, you can support the channel in a way that I would never be able to tell you how much I fully appreciate. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.